And I think that's why you've been.
We have three flagship phones here today. We have the iPhone 14 Pro Max, the S22 Ultra and the Galaxy Z Fold 4. Yes, we're going to be comparing videos and photos, but more important than the specs and how much they cost is the quality of the images and the videos that we get at the end. I'm Alex and I do down-to-earth tech videos. Let's go for a walk. I just want to preface this video with a note that when it comes to this level of smartphones, it's really hard to go wrong with your choice. I did find some issues and some key differences between them that could actually tip the balance for you if you care about some of these features specifically. I haven't tried every single aspect of these phones, but I spent the last month working on this video, so there's a lot in here for us to go through in a single video. So today we're going to focus on the key aspects of the camera, starting with the panorama shots, for example, which is not something that I do a lot, but it's a good example of the sort of differences that I found. In this case, I've got to say I much prefer the warmer tones that the iPhone captured here. And in general, when it comes to white balance and color temperature, I haven't manually changed anything here, but the iPhone in general does produce a lot warmer shots than the other phones, just out of the box, right? This never used to be the case in every shot, but it's definitely noticeable now. When photographing people sometimes, those iPhone warmer tones are not really doing a lot for me, they didn't look as good to me. It's funny because the Samsung phones are traditionally the ones that used to be oversaturated and almost unnatural, right? If you go back to my S21 Ultra review, we started to see that shift. And in this case again, I actually prefer the Samsung image here from a skin tone perspective. Which brings me to an important point, which is there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to the style of the images you can take. As I said, I use the default settings for this video, which on the iPhone just seem very warm. But you can go in and change the style for a cooler tone. Some shots I personally found that were too warm on the iPhone, but some people might prefer that. Coming up, I have some very important aspects of using these phones as a camera for photos and videos that not many people talk about in these comparisons and reviews. And before we get on to that, just to avoid any issues with YouTube compression, you can download all of these photos and videos in their original format, so you can take a look for yourself and pixel peep if you want to. I'll share a link in the description for you. In terms of a general look, I have to say the S22 Ultra has come leaps and bounds since I first got it, but they're still only excellent in certain conditions. In good lighting, they have an impressive sharpness and it seems to do a fantastic job to retain the details in the shadows. Take this shot here for example of these shoes. You can see the iPhone just crushes the black in certain areas. That I actually prefer how the iPhone didn't let the purple spill too much over the wall in the background, but in terms of detail of the subject itself, both Samsung phones are doing a better job for me. Well spotted. You may have noticed that I left a Pixel 7 Pro shot in that image, but that's for my next video. It's still early days for me with the Pixel 7 Pro. I'm a bit slower to produce these videos. I just like taking my time to give you a proper perspective. Right, I noticed that when I was shooting in low light conditions, it was trickier for the Fold 4 to autofocus, but nothing that a little bit of patience wouldn't solve it. The same with the S22 Ultra, though the Fold was noticeably slower. But I'm definitely nitpicking there, it's not a major issue. The 14 Pro Max didn't struggle at all, which is why I mentioned this in terms of autofocus. And maybe that's because of LiDAR, I'm not too sure, that new sensor as well is coming into play here. So if you rely a lot on autofocus, the iPhone does seem to be doing a better job for me. When it comes to detail, the big Apple news this year was, that big jump, right? From 12 megapixels to 48 megapixels on the 14 Pro range, but is that making a big difference from the previous 13 or even the 12 Pro Max? In some cases, I did notice that the digital 2x cropping does seem to be adding more detail to the iPhone shots, even though it's using less of the sensor, which sounds counterintuitive, right? But I did a bit of research and it turns out that the fact that the 2x cropping uses less of the sensor is allowing for the iPhone to use more processing power, so we get even more detailed shots in the 2x crop. And just as a little side note here, and this is one of the things that not many people talk about, when you're trying to take a quick picture and you want to quickly change the zoom or change the camera mode, do you see this lag on the Samsung? I'm not sure you can see here. Let me get closer. Do you see that? It's a bit like, kind of bit slow to change. Well, there is an animation on the iPhone that you could argue is adding to the wait time, but you can snap the photo even before the animation finishes, which you can't really do on the Samsung. I tried to capture that on video here for you, and I hope you can see what I mean. It's a small detail, I know, but I thought it was worth mentioning. Let's take a look at some low light shots though. Remember that there's a lot of variables at play here. Some of the shots were taken in public places, so there's street lights, lights from cars moving past, and all of these cameras behave differently and react differently to those things. In general though, I thought the iPhone produced those warmer tones again, which is not something that I like in every shot. Like I said, you can change the settings for cooler photos, but straight out of the camera, this is what you get, which to me is a little bit too warm. The S22 Ultra and the Fold 4 do retain a lot of detail, but have this purpley tint on the photo sometimes that, and if you look in the clouds here, the iPhone shot does seem to have a more natural feel to them. At least it looks more like how I remember the scene. On the iPhone in night mode, actually just be aware that you're not using the 48 megapixel sensor, so the difference between this and the 13 Pro Max, for example, is very minimal. I covered this in my 14 versus 13 Pro Max video, and this is another reason, right, to consider the 13 Pro Max if you're on the fence between that and the 14. When it comes to using zoom in low light, the iPhone is just comical, really. It's not the sort of shot that you're going to be taking all the time, right? But it's so noisy that it reminds me of kind of a very old, like early 2000s phone. Portrait shots have come a long way in recent phones. It's probably my favorite mode on the S22 Ultra. Whether it's for people or products, I use this a lot for product shots actually, and I have to say the S22 Ultra is really hard to beat. If you look on the edges here, you can see that the iPhone still struggles despite all that computational photography power that Apple kind of claims to have. The S22 Ultra is just better at that edge detection, even in this Exynos version here. If you take night mode portraits, or if you like that feature, you might be interested in this, but I always find it a bit of a gimmick myself, and I have a bit of a problem with how marketing shots look, the ones that we see at the product launches. And this applies to both Apple and Samsung, right? It's not just one of them doing this. And most likely using some level of professional studio lighting, right? But the iPhone 14 Pro Max seem to have made the most of this recent upgrade. I think the Samsung shots are good. They just need to tune down a little bit the processing of the image, especially when it comes to people, to make it a little bit more flattering. As I mentioned earlier, there are some key differences between these phones, and lens flare is one of them. All of them produce flares, right, when you're shooting with any light source kind of in front of you, but you can see here that the iPhone flare, for me anyway, is way too distracting. In some shots, like in videos, those flares can add a bit of character. I actually enjoy to see that in videos, but most of the time, it's just a nuisance. I love taking ultra-wide shots as well, and I think they add a lot of characters to some shots. You do lose some detail when you do that, but being realistic, no one is really cropping into those images, right? I haven't done any research on this, but I think 99.9% of people out there, including myself, will be uploading these photos to social media anyway and applying filters to them, so the detail doesn't really matter too much when we talk about ultra-wide shots. I think it's more important about that character and about the image perspective and how it looks as a whole on a tiny screen. No one is going to be pixel peeping. When it comes to dynamic range though, I think they all do a decent job most of the time. Why do I say that? Because there are times when the iPhone 14 Pro Max blows out the sky like massively, like it's completely white, and other times it also crunches the blacks, losing a lot of the detail and making the picture look like it was done in a much cheaper phone. In fact, I think the 13 Pro Max did a better job at this. It's a shame because from the specs perspective, the iPhone has it all, but it seems to be losing detail in the highlights and shadows. Something that is slightly inconsistent across of these phones is macro shots. You can get very close to the subject, with the iPhone not as close, but there are times when macro doesn't actually even kick in automatically, and other times when it kicks in, you don't want it to do that, but it's easy enough to turn it off on all of them now. Before we talk about the video quality, just a quick reminder that YouTube can be a very tricky business for new channels like this one, so if you're enjoying this video, a thumbs up goes a long way. You might not think it matters, but it really helps YouTube push this video out to other people out there. I'm not going to ask you to subscribe either, but do take a look around the channel, and if you do like my stuff, a sub to the channel would be amazing. I'm here at least once a week with a down-to-earth tech video for you, so if you like your tech gadgets, you're in the right place. Right, when it comes to video, off the bat, I just want to say, I noticed a hugely irritating thing on the iPhone viewfinder. No one really talks about this, but this is really annoying jitter, which wasn't really this pronounced on the 13 Pro Max. It doesn't really impact the final image, and I only see this in 4K 24 frames per second, which is not a mode that most people would use. I love using that mode because I prefer the resulting video. But I'm hoping that this can be improved with software, because the viewfinder, when you're looking at the recording, it feels really jittery. I have covered this in more detail on my iPhone reviews. On the Samsung, every now and then you do get what it may look like a drop frame, but nothing like the jitter on the iPhone. One camera mode that I really like to use is slow-mo. I think this is getting better and better on the Samsung phones, but to me, the iPhone is just better for video in general. It seems to be able to process video with a bit more brightness and more contrast. For a bit of fun, I tried the action mode versus the Samsung Super Steady, but again, this is probably the most underrated feature of the new iPhones. I have many issues with the iPhone in general. In fact, I'm not even using it that much these days, apart from kind of syncing my watch and using it for videos. But action mode is really impressive. There's a lot more to talk about when it comes to video, but I'll let you be the judge on this one. As is the custom here, let's have an emoji game. Purple heart if you think that the iPhone did a better job overall for video, black heart for the S22 Ultra, and comment with a yellow heart if you think that the Fold 4 has a more complete package when it comes to video. Let's have that chat in the comments. Right, just want to qualify something. When we talk about the iPhone, in my case anyway, I've been very vocal about what I really think about this upgrade. And looking at the camera in more detail for this video, it kind of reaffirmed what I already thought, which is the 13 Pro range is still a better buy for me if you're looking for the iPhone Pro range. But that's a discussion for another video. The Samsung phones continue to impress me for many reasons, despite the early issues that I had with the S22 Ultra. I documented that here as well. But it has matured now, granted, after about 6 months of software updates, but it is now a fantastic device for photos. For videos, I have to say the iPhone is still amazing, and I'm really curious to see how the Pixel 7 Pro stacks up. I haven't spent a lot of time with the Pixel 7 Pro yet, but I will share my early impressions in my next video, so stay tuned for that. Actually, do let me know if there's something that you want to see at all, or any other phone that you might want me to compare. Go back to your bed. Go back to your bed. Back to your bed. Good boy. See you soon.